Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Ken's Show and Tell. I'm getting ready to do a little more work on this 1972 Mercedes Benz 280SE 4.5. One thing I want to show you right off the bat, for those of you who have been watching these videos, the hood pad is still in place after about 400 miles of driving, so that's a good sign. What I'm up to today is kind of going through the suspension, front and rear, and including the steering on this car, because even though I balanced the wheels, the front wheels on this thing, I still have a slight little balance and shake in between, about, I would say, right around 75 miles an hour, and it can kind of come and go. And so what I'm going to do is, I have checked this stuff before, but I want to go through it systematically and just show you what I find in this. Let's start with the front subframe bushing, and from visual inspection I don't see any tears. It's not separated, and the actual rubber itself looks nice and shiny and not cracked. Looking at it from this side, or at least from this, we're looking at the driver's side of the car, by the way, first, and just looking at it from behind, it still looks in good condition to me. I don't hear any clunks or anything like that from the front end. And it's not that it's wandering, but I think that looks okay. Let's go over and look at the passenger side. Passenger side is a little easier to see. And again, there's no separation, no cracks. The bushing itself, the mount looks in good condition. Let's look at it from the front. And looking at the subframe mount from the front, it looks okay to me. So we'll move on to back to the driver's side. I'm visually inspecting this anti-sway bar link on the driver's side and the front. The bushings look okay. This does too. Put a crowbar up there on it. Nothing's wobbling. Everything looks good and tight there. Inspecting the rest of this bushing on the sway bar, main bushing. It's not cracked, falling apart. And I put a crowbar on it, and it's not moving, which is good. Passenger side anti-sway bar bushing looks really good as well. And let's see if we can put a crowbar on it and get some leverage on it. Movement is not there, which is good. No clanking or making funny noises. And here is the link over here. And let's see if we can't put some leverage on that. No unusual movements, clanking, or anything like that. So I'm happy with this anti-sway bar in the front. Let's see. I'm giving it lots of leverage, and there's no movement, which is good. I can see the engine kind of shock absorber up here. I'm putting leverage on it too. I don't see any movement in there. Now, one thing that I do notice right here is that the shock absorber is a KYB, not a Bilstein. You know, it looks old and nasty. So that's something to seriously consider. So when I grab this passenger front wheel, move it from side to side, there's no wobble, no clunking, nothing, just as tight. And do top to bottom, no wobbling, no clunking, no movement. That's good. Let's check the driver's side now. So let's do our side to side. Nothing there. Do our top to bottom. There is a little I can feel it a little wobbly top to bottom. I don't see any suspension movement when I do that. So I'm going to be pulling these wheels off anyway and rotating them, so I'll check the tightness of the bearing on this side. So just a little bit. Now I'm going to check this steering link and its connectors to the steering box, and all the way across the back here. Here's the steering dampener right here. There's another link going across. There's a bunch more steering links right here. And just looking at the caps, or at least I should say the rubber boots on there that protect the ball joints, they all look good except for this one right here. And this drag link here, if that's what it is, steering link, the boot itself is kind of smashed up there, but we'll see if there's any movement there. Let's go back to the driver's side and work our way over. Just put a little pressure right here. No movement in here. I think this one right here, being red, and just looking at the condition of it, looking at the boot here and up above, that looks like it's been replaced. And this one over here on the opposite side looks like it's older. I don't know if it's original or not, but it certainly looks older. And with this torn here and with the rust here and it being black like everything else under here. So let's just see what we have up here in this area. Okay, I can make it turn just by doing that. I don't see any looseness. Let's see what kind of pressure we can put right here. Yeah, it wants to turn, which is good. Okay. Again, I don't hear any rattles or even see any rattles. Let's just put a little pressure here. No, it just wants to turn. The ball's not moving in the socket. Okay. Let's move over here. Now there is some oil on the steering damper, but it could be coming from up here, just dripping down a small little leak over time. Let's see if we put this crowbar right here and just give it a little nudge. Things are moving up and down, but I just see the bars bending, and I don't see any movement in those slop in those joints. I think this is called a steering idler here, and that's good and tight. And let's see, we go down here, see if I can get this crowbar right in here. Let's give this a little nudge. Nope, that's good and tight. See, now I can see over here, this is what I was worried about. Put some pressure here. It's not moving. It's not wallowing or anything. Plus, I didn't experience any movement or wobbling when I was grabbing the wheel and checking the horizontal movement, which would, if this was worn out, then I would expect to see some slop in there. Okay, so shock absorbers are suspect. This right here could be suspect. And steering dampeners are very cheap, so I might pull that off and just see how it behaves. And because I understand that if your steering dampener starts going bad and losing its ability to dampen, it can transmit some pretty strange oscillations and vibrations to the steering, regardless of how well balanced your tires are. Well, the first thing that comes into view is another KYB shock absorber on the back. Pretty rusted. That is suspect, I think. Oh, I read that trying to bounce the corners of these cars up and down to check the condition of the shock isn't a reliable method. I didn't know that. I do not get any unnecessary bounce from the corners when I push them down. So apparently that method doesn't work very well. So here's the other shock absorber on the driver's side, and it's pretty nasty looking too. The rubbers up here, like the stop bump right here, looks good. And on the passenger side, it looks good. The rubber that the coil spring is sitting in looks very nice. Given its age, and this one down here looks good too. See, put it right, I'm getting no wobbling, no movement here. Let's see what we got here. I don't want to pry on that. That's pretty good too. Yeah. Let's see, I can do it right here. Push on it. Yeah, see, there's no movement. I can make the whole car move, and that doesn't move. Okay. The car sits all right, so I'm not worried about these things. Let's just see what we've got here. See what kind of oh, we got this up here. Yeah, this stabilizing stuff on this rear end. Let's see. See, all the bushings and everything up there look really good. Okay. This is always well greased. This pivot for the swing arm axle arrangement. I've already checked these boots. They're in good condition. They're not cracked. Let's go over here and put a crowbar right here. Get no movement there. I don't want to smash anything, so we'll just have to be careful here. That looks good. All right, so I think, okay, so I think our approach here is going to be as I originally intended, which was to change out the shocks. I've got a steering damper on order, and then we'll rotate these wheels and see if that makes a difference. Well, here's my Bilstein shock absorber kit. I ordered this from Mercedes Source. I do like dealing with them. Everything's always straightforward and put together. And one of the nice things about this, I'm always get a thrill out of seeing made in Germany on a part that I get for any of these Mercedes Benz cars. I did notice that on the KYB in the back, and these are the rear shocks based on how they will attach to the bottom of the car, and these are the front shocks, that in the KYB there is a shock protector on this top part, and on the KYBs there is no protector on the front part, but this one does have protectors on the front shock. So I'm just going to put it together like the kit comes, and here's the other. I have these marked here, rear. So these are the pieces for the rear. Unlike the Bilstein, which has one single 14 millimeter nut on top, these KYBs have two 14 millimeter nuts on top, and I have to hold the bottom one in order to get the top one to turn. But in order to hold the bottom one, I'm going to have to pull this battery out, which I was hoping that I didn't have to, but I'll go ahead and do that. This is just my little homemade battery holder here. Ah, this thing should just come right on out. Oh, looks like it's heavy. Oh, it gives me access to those stacked 13mm nuts on there. Alright, so here it is. Yep, that thing's turning. Okay, so what I'm going to have to do is clamp onto this flat part right here, because I can't get it around like that. Okay, good. I'm going to get a tool and clamp onto here. Okay, I've put a pair of vice grips on here. Reach down below here and grab onto this other nut here. Let's just see. Oh, okay. It's come loose. You can only see it through the jaws of the vice grip here. This time I think I'll come in from the top like this because it's not very tight, and that way I can see it better. All right. There we go. Now, I haven't loosened anything from below because I don't know how much tension this is under. I've never changed a shock absorber on a vintage Mercedes before. So those of you who have never done this, this is a first for me too. And you know what? You can't find, I haven't been able to find instructions. The only thing I've been able to find is, oh, this is so simple to do. Well, of course, everything's simple once you know how to do it, right? See how there's space developing between this nut and this washer? So that is not dropping down, which is good. Because I'm going to raise, after I get this off, then I'll see how it's put together, and I'll just raise the car up and undo the bottom, and maybe to just come out from the bottom, and maybe assembly is just the reverse as to what happens with this when I start raising it. So I'm going to raise it slowly and see if that actually pulls down. Huh. No, I thought it might. Okay, well, I'll have to undo it from the bottom and then see if it pulls. It informs me about how to do the other side, I believe. Here are the two 13mm nuts at the bottom. I might have said 13 at the top. They were 14 at the top. And get off a little bit, you can see them. And I'll pull those out and take those apart and see what happens to this shock here. Well, I got this KYB shock off the front passenger. It took a little thinking to figure out how to get it off. I was hoping that maybe it would just kind of push up from the bottom. But I swear the compression in this whole shock is very, very hard. Maybe this shock is fine, I don't know, but I'm going to change it out with the new Bilstein. What I ended up having to do was pull the wheel off. After I undid these two nuts here and the nut at the top that comes up through and attaches. I guess you'd call that the shock tower, I don't know. And after I got the wheel off, then I could grab onto the body of this and push up, and that'll now allow me to pull it up out of the bottom and then fish it out of the car. And now it's extended. You can see the old one is the same length as the new ones. So I'm going to go ahead and put this new one in right here on the passenger side. I sure hope the other side goes easier than this side. I picked this one because I thought it would be the most difficult one because of access to the top of the shock absorber. I sure learned a lot from this one. You need to take the wheel off. You need to compress it from the bottom, push it up and get that old one out. And then you have to compress this one and get it in, and then you have to really do a lot of prying and moving to get those two little bolts at the end of the shock down into these holes here. And I used the old nuts first to pull it the rest of the way through, and then used the new nuts because they are lock nuts to snug things up in place. All right, I've already reversed the front and rear tire on this passenger side, so I'm going to go ahead and put the rear wheel on this side, and then I'm going to consider this side done. Well, this is what I learned from that passenger front wheel. Number one, I'm an idiot. Number two, after I take off the top nuts and stuff first, then what I need to do is raise the car up and take the entire wheel off. Number three, then I can take the nuts off from the bottom. Number four, then I need to compress the shock and fish it out of there, either by using crowbar, leverage, whatever, kind of fish it out. And so that's what I've learned. So I'm hoping that the driver's side will go much faster. I've got the top of the shock clamped with these vice grips, and get this nut loose here. I got the capture nut already off. It was loose to begin with. This feels like it. Nope, I can't move it with my hand, so I'll just... What I'm going to do now is tighten up this bearing a little bit to take care of that minute wobble going this way. And I think that will be good enough. And start off, you have to undo this locking piece here with an 8mm Allen wrench. Just unloosen it. Loosen it a little bit. There you go, it's loose. All right. Then you take a 24mm wrench, and I'm just going to tighten it just a little bit. Let's just see with how. Yeah. Okay. That's good. And then what I'll do is I'll mount the tire back on. I'll go ahead and tighten this back. And then I'll mount the tire back on and we'll check for wobble. Actually, I'll do that later because I want to get the rest of this. There we go. Get good and tight. Yeah, it's tight. And I want to get the rest of this shock off and a new one on, and then I'll put the wheel back on and then check it, and then I can put the hub on with the wheel. Here are the two 13mm nuts underneath this front shock, which goes up into that holder there. So all we have to do is undo these and then wrestle that shock out. And learning from that other side, on the driver's side, what I've done, of course, I've undone the nuts here, and you can see those end of the bolts of the studs have pulled back up, and the reason for that is because I stick this punch in there and I can pry this thing up, which makes it a lot easier. So let me work on it. I'll have to stick a crowbar in here and get some more leverage and get it up out of there. I might be able to grab the top of the shock up here and just push it up, but I have to compress it somehow in order to get it out of there. So I think I'll try that. Well, I'm kind of embarrassed to report that I could not compress this shock to get it up over this, I guess you call it the pan or wishbone here, to compress it, move it up, and get it out of here. So what I ended up doing was cutting this. The other side I could compress it. So perhaps the other shock was weaker than this one. But nevertheless, if I'm going to replace one, I need to replace two. So KYB into the trash. Hooray! The new Bilstein is in place. On the driver's side, I've tightened up the bearings on this front wheel on the driver's side. Now I'm going to start removing these old KYBs on the back. And we'll start here on the driver's side, and then we'll move over to the passenger side. And I think I'll start with removing these nuts. I'll put some penetrating fluid on here, and I don't know if there's a nut or a bolt. I think it's a bolt. Yes, goes all the way through there. So I think what I'll do is start with the top. So I'll have to lower it to get access to the trunk. What it looks like you do is pry off this protective cap here. There we go. Oh, okay, it has a capture nut and a bottom nut. And then we'll see about undoing those. Takes a 14 millimeter. So we'll just put this right here. There we go. Yeah, see, these have been protected inside the trunk so they're easy to come off. Let's see if that is going to turn. No, it's not. Okay, so we can get it off with this perhaps. Yeah. See, that flat piece isn't turning, so that means the rod and that shock isn't turning. Maybe it's because there's a lot of tension on it hanging down. It just wasn't there on the front. I don't know. Oh, it's about to come off, but boy. You can see, there we go, it did drop. Okay. Well, you can see it dropped all the way to the floor. Dented my shield right here for the disc. I can straighten that out. So let me raise it up a little bit, and I have something I can put underneath there to take that tension off. Okay, let's just see what I can do. So lesson learned. When I do the other side, I'll support the axle from underneath. I have raised it up off the floor that dropped, and it doesn't look like anything else is going to drop out. I think this is as far as it's going to go. So I'll raise it up and I can put something in it to push that all the way up. So I'll relieve the strain. Again, lesson learned. I'm no expert, just learning as I go. And part of the learning process is to make mistakes. I guess you shouldn't be afraid to make mistakes. All right, we'll undo this 17 millimeter bolt here. You can see how I just need to straighten this out right here so it doesn't scrape. This has been pushed out a little bit here. You can see I'll fix that. And then nothing looks like it's unduly stretched. Oh, that is. But it looks so. I'll get the weight off of it in a minute. Lift this thing up. Take the strain off of this. Right. Oh yeah. Okay. Took the strain off of that brake line there. Okay, good. bolt with some washers on there. Okay, see? All right, here's the old KYB right alongside the new Bilstein. So let's go ahead and put that in. I was watching a video last night done by Pierre Heddery, and it's his opinion that these KYBs are junk. And so we'll see. I do know that their Bilsteins are much heavier duty, just in this rod going into the cylinder, and the size of the nuts and all that hold it together. So we'll see if the ride is better. I know in trying to compress these things, that's been the problem I've had with getting these KYBs off the front. I had to resort to cutting the rod here on the KYB in the front. I don't think that's going to be a problem here, obviously, because I've gotten this rear one out. It's interesting that the KYB in the rear has a protective cover over the top, which is really not needed. The Bilstein doesn't have it because it goes up into this protective cone here in the body. It didn't have the protective stuff or sleeve over the top on the front, but the Bilsteins did. So there you go. That might be a difference in build. So far these rears are a piece of cake. I decided to install this one with the label out to show off. Made in Germany in Bilstein. So let's tighten this up, and then what I'll do is set it down with the wheels on. I think I'm going to go ahead and put the wheel on the other side too, to avoid this problem that I had here of dropping and bending this. So let me straighten this out and tighten this bolt, put this bolt mechanism back on, and then we'll go from there. Well, I'll just show you something I did that you should not do. I over torqued that bolt, and look, I broke it, and this was inside the shock assembly, and so I happened to have an ability to reverse drill this thing out. So I drilled it out, and boy, I was fortunate. It wasn't stuck. I was able to get it out without any problem. And I have a large assortment of the proper hardness bolts. So these are class 8.8. This is 8.8. And this is 8.8. Turn it around here. There you go. So back to it, just a little bump in the road here. So we'll go ahead and put that one in, and look, it even has its own collar on there. Driver's side Bilstein in place. Labels in the back. Rear tire on. I've got to put the wheel cover on, but that's no big deal. Oh yeah, also when I mount the wheel, I also put copper slip back here so it doesn't adhere to it. If any of y'all ever had that problem, you know what a pain it is. Now I'm turning my attention over here, and this thing is so tight that my electric impact wrench would not get it off. So let's see what I can do with a little leverage here. Let's see. All right. Broke it loose. All right. Okay. Amazing. But it came off with a torque wrench. So anyway, I'll put the car back on the ground. I learned my lesson on that side. So I don't want to have the same problem I had with this, everything being overextended. This looks like it actually might be worse because of the exhaust system. It could lay on and mess up, and it's hinged here. So I don't know, but I'm not going to take that risk. All right, so I'll let it down, take the nut off the top, and climb under here and see if I can't knock this loose, and then pull this out. I've already undone this by hand. Now I can just pull this out. And I removed all the bushings and everything because I thought I could get that done without having to lift it up again, but dig that out. Hard to do with one hand. Let's try this little trick. I can't get it out because it's in there, so it's about a magnet. Here we go. Oh, come on out of there. No, I can get it up. There we go. Yes. Okay. Having all kinds of little handy tools is useful. Okay, let's try to pry this thing out. Here it comes. Okay. All right. There it is. Out it is. Thank God. All right, now let's see if we can slide this rascal up there. Get that through that hole. There it goes, it's in the hole. I got it. I think I have it. Ah, whoa. Okay, it's on the little spindle here. What are we going to call it? Let's see if we can't push it. Yep, there it goes. It's on there. All right, now the rest is reassembling. So we got this little cup, this washer goes right here, little cup, another washer behind the nut and the cup. Screw that sucker on there. Let's see. I think what I'm going to do is get this snug, and then I'm going to tighten the top, lift this sucker up so I can really get some torque on it, because I really can't get much under here like this, like that. Put this one there. I'll screw that down as far as I can. There we go. Anyway, so I just have to tighten this sucker down a long ways. Well, that's tight. Let's take this off. These little vice grips are nice. And we just put the little cap back on. There we go. Now all I have to do is raise it up and tighten underneath. Well, I just got back from about a 35-mile drive or so in this car, and I'm telling you, I'm really pleased with those shocks. I can tell a difference. The undulations that I was worried about are gone. It feels really planted on the road. The stance of the car looks right. I'm very pleased with that. And I'm just very, very pleased with it. The back is standing nicely. The wheels aren't cockeyed in any sort of way. And The ride height looks good all the way around. Yes, I think I'm very pleased. So we will put her up. Okay, well, thanks for watching Ken's Show and Tell.